Well, greetings fellow humans and other things alike. Let me start this video off by saying I'm sorry for not uploading in a while. I've been working on scripts and other things alike. For example, between working my daily job and writing scripts and getting the material I needed, it has taken a while. Because not only do I just do this when I get home, I also take it easy and play games just for fun and not to make videos all the time. But again, I'm sorry for not uploading in a while now, because that was not my intention. But let's start off this video with the 5 roguelike games that I really like. Really, really like. Let's start off with a western. This is West of Dead, a noir-like, I would say, Western roguelike cover shooter with a protagonist voiced by none other than Ron Perlman. And really, what's not to like with that? I love the atmosphere in this game and the design of characters and environment. It all really blends together well uh, and add together the music and the excellent sounds in the game to this, and you have the premise of a great game. Now, the game is really good, but it does have its flaws. Let's get into the sort of a gist of the game. You're dead and you're in purgatory. Your mission is to get out and also get your memory back. This is done with different kinds of weapons and gadgets like explosives and axes that you throw. The design of environments are pretty, but also a bit monotonous. They're quite limited in how they are detailed and done, which is a shame, but it is also a very nice atmosphere that fits well with the overall design of the game. Now you progress through the game, and as you get to another location, you first get to get rid of your sins. And by getting rid of your sins that you pick up from enemies, so it might not be your sins, it might be the enemy's sins that you pick up. I'm not 100% sure about that one. Anyway, you pick up the sins and you progress, you get to upgrade yourself permanently, like more health, damage, and I believe reload speed and other perks like health flasks. When you upgrade, when you have put enough points into one, you upgrade that thing to the next. It's quite simple, but very. I would say it's quite a difficult game actually. I had little problems with the first levels because they're a bit soft, I would say, but then you progress a little further and it quickly gets much harder. Bigger enemies, tougher enemies, faster enemies, and so on and so forth. You get the gist. Great low roguelike. I recommend it highly. Next game on the list is Never Return, and it's a little bit different. It's third person, basically a hack and slash rogue-like. The graphics are very basic, but I do like the environment still. The character designs and the environments are basic, but I do like the style. I have no problem with this kind of graphic style. It just shows that you don't care about the graphics, you just want to create a nice, good game. Much of the game is quite basically basic actually, and but I like it overall, even though it is very basic, because it still has its charms. Mainly the amount of loot that you get, and also the enemies. Now, I will say that the enemies can be a bit one-sided at the start because it takes quite a lot of levels before you actually get to see a new enemy type. But running through the levels aren't too difficult, at least at the start. They get a little more difficult as you progress, and there's plenty of loot on the way. Loot comes from well, mostly from the enemies, of course, chests and bosses. Bosses, or overlords as they are called, are summoned by the player themselves, and you can either even choose not to summon them if you like. And they are stronger depending on what crystals you use to summon them. The crystals have different rarities and different types. You have the normal ones, then you have Nightmare and higher ups. So the stronger the crystals, the stronger the boss. You can also, the crystals are looted from enemies and chests, and you also get some from the boss itself when you kill him, or the Overlord. Depending on which crystals and what rarity you use, the Overlord gets different stats as well, like health regeneration, damage, and so on and so forth. And the stronger you make the Overlord, the better the loot is from him. Or her. And I really like that because that is what I like about the game, mostly because of the overlords that I get to summon them and I get to make them my own, I guess you could call it. I have a few hours in the game and I've progressed through level 15, 16, I can't remember exactly, but it is a bit monotonous to progress through the levels as they are quite one-sided in uh, environmental style. But there are some different type of environments so far, and as I have not progressed very far really, because level level 15 or wherever I am, it's not that high actually. It goes way much higher. But that's it for this game. Actually, I don't want to drag this on. It's Never Return, and I recommend it. This next game on the list is the one I would say is the hardest one on this list at least. Curse of the Dead Gods. This one is a bit more difficult than the others and others in some ways at least. After each level where you choose which path to take, you gain some corruption, and when you get to 100 corruption, you gain a curse. When you go to the next level, that is. When you get to the next level, you gain a curse. And, well, the curse could... The curse, of course, gives you a negative effect. But if you're lucky, this curse can also give you some positive things. Or even the curse might be a positive thing that doesn't affect your gameplay, if you're lucky. Now, Curse of the Dead Gods, I'm sure you've heard of this game, and there are plenty of things to say about this game, really, but I don't have time for everything, so I'm just gonna say it like this. You're on an adventure, you came to a temple, and you're cursed. You have a weird hand that's gonna give you curses every time you gain 100 corruption. Now you can also gain corruption from taking damage from enemies, and also from offering blood instead of gold when getting relics and weapons. Now some relics are dropped from bosses, or not bosses, sorry, enemies. And these enemies, well, they drop the relics and you pick them up. You can offer them to the gods, the relics, to gain some health and or gold, which is quite nice. I do like the gameplay in this game. The combat is quite fast paced, and there is the little thing about darkness. You need to use your torch to actually light up bracers. Well, normally you would light up bracers. Sometimes there aren't any bracers in the room, so you need to light up the enemies because when you're in the dark, you take more damage from enemies. When you're in the light or carrying the torch, you take less damage. So that is a very important thing about this game, and I believe the damage is almost doubled when you're in the dark. So that is a very important thing to know. There are a lot of things to unlock in the game, nice weapons and There are plenty of things to unlock, like weapons and also uh, passive abilities. The game is a bit limited in the passive abilities because you can only have 3, I believe, so that is a negative to me, but overall, I really do like the game and I do like the challenge. This is Curse of the Dead Gods, and I recommend it. Next we have Skeletal Avenger. This is so far the easiest of the games on this list, but a perfect game for shorter runs to me. For example, you have the missions. They can last anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes depending on the difficulty. So you get my point there. Let's start off from the beginning though. You are a revived warrior, a skeleton. You can throw your head if you want to at the enemy. Sent out by a necromancer to take revenge, and you do this by going on revenge missions, I should say. Each mission's last level, contains one boss, and depending on the difficulty on the mission, ranging from easy to very hard, the enemy's difficulty will differ. Now, very hard is the hardest one I've seen so far, I believe. Don't know, there might be something harder. Now, depending on the difficulty and how much you search through each level looking for everything, because you can choose to progress to the next dungeon if you find a exit to dungeon. You can choose the path you want to take, and if you find the path you want to take, you can go there without killing all the enemies in one level, or even without finding all the things in that level, like health, perks, passives, or abilities, weapons, and so on. Now, searching through each level, looking for everything and killing everything is recommended, I would say, because, well, you gain more things, and when you have killed everything, you also gain a bonus thing that you can destroy, which gives you another passive ability. Now, killing everything and doing everything can be as quick as 12 to 15 minutes on easy, or double that on harder difficulties. I haven't died once in this game, been close, but you can choose which path, as you can choose which path to take. You can take a path towards a healing well if you're lucky, if that exists on that path. You can also see when you choose the mission which paths are available, so you can even plan before going into a mission, because the health that you end with on the last level is the one you will start with on the next run, so take care of that. The goal is to collect crystals, and you lose some of these when you die. You can increase how many you retain when you die, but the goal is to collect these crystals to unlock more levels, and the more you need more crystals each level you unlock. Crystals unlock at certain special unlocks, or you gain crystals from either random drops from different things, or you get them from the boss at the end of the level. The game looks nice, but it could use some more environments and weapons. I have found very few of each of these, so I would like to see more of these, but as a casual roguelike, this is a perfect game. Skeletal Avenger, I recommend it. And now for the final and last, but certainly not least, Gunfire Reborn. You might have heard of this game. It has been in early access for a while, but just recently came out of early access with the update 1.0. During this time, I've played during the early access, and from the start it was just 3 heroes, and this has now been doubled since I started, and I love this game as a roguelike, and it's a good challenge. It's a FPS with sort of a cartoony art style. It's a nice art style to me. I love the art style. It looks great. It's a bit jagged, I'll admit to that. It's not the smoothest kind of edges and graphics, but the art style is still something I really like about this game. And I have to say, for being an early access game and coming out in this date, I have encountered very few bugs and glitches and so on. So this is one of those early access games that give early access games a good name, I have to say. Plenty of updates giving much improvement in the form of weapons, heroes, challenges, new enemies, and so on. Even if this is a FPS shooter, the game can also be played, or a run, should I say, can also be played with melee weapons like the sword, or a sword, I should say. And this is very interesting. There is one character I've seen that is using a sword, and I believe that is her abilities. Each hero has unique abilities that can be improved after each level, where you pick a maybe you pick increased damage to the ability or bigger range, area of effect, and so on. The game is very, when it comes to roguelite, it's kind of a basic. You go through a run, and at the end of the run, you open a chest, and in that chest, you can choose from 3 different ability ability improvements or character improvements, you could call it. You can also find vaults that are optional. You need to unlock this though, so when you first start, you can't unlock these vaults. But you shoot at the glowy bits on the walls, and you enter it, and you fight some enemies, and then a boss, and there you can also gain some character improvements and weapons. I think the gunplay, well, the combat is very solid. Its movements, environments, bosses is great, and it mixes together with the difficulty and the art style very well, and the what should I say? The enemy style, the kind of way how they fight against you. You have ranged enemies, you have melee enemies, you have mixed. You have these who are a bit crazy and who goes into very close range and try to burn you with flamethrowers as well. So many weapons and different ways to play. I love that. And some are of course better than others, and this is for you to discover, of course. But there are some things that I just think are a bit unbalanced when it comes to weapons. Some weapons are so much better than others that it's just ridiculous. But I got so much left to do in the game, and I love returning to it and playing it. I'll be honest and say I haven't played that many hours, but roguelikes to me are something I play for shorter runs. I play a few hours and then move on. But I can also add that there is a kind of a story which spans 3 different environments with multiple levels. After the first and second boss, you can log off and continue from there. There is a resting place between world 1 and 2, and then between world 2 and 3, where you can rest and recuperate, where you can regain your health and then go back to the inn, which is the hub area. Now, has been Gunfire Reborn, and I recommend it. And I've been Swippy92. Have a great life, and I hope to see you in future videos. This has been my list of roguelikes that I recommend. And if you have any questions about any of these games, feel free to leave them down in the comments. And if you have any roguelike recommendations, feel free to recommend that in the comments.